Today, child safety, my very special guest and dear friend, Rosemary D'alessandro, is here with us for our first hour in tribute to beautiful Joan Angela D'alessandro and the Joan's Joy Foundation. This is an incredible story, and Rosemary D'alessandro is an incredible lady, along with her sons, John and Michael. They do a great job to keep Joan's memory alive. Let me tell you a little bit about beautiful Joan. Joan was a 7-year-old beautiful little girl and proud brownie when she was delivering 2 boxes of Girl Scout cookies to a neighbor who lived just 3 doors down across the street and from Joan's house. The neighbor, a Tappan Zee high school chemistry teacher, I don't like to mention his name, but I will because you might want to Google this, Joseph McGowan, sexually molested and murdered Joan on April 19th, 1973 on Holy Thursday. Joan's body was found 3 days later on Easter Sunday in a sepulchre-like space in a large rock formation at Harriman State Park just over the border in New York. Rosemary, for the past, I'd say 40 years, Rosemary will clarify that for me, has been fighting every single day of her life to keep Joan's memory alive by passing legislations for child safety. So important. So if you do have a grandchild, male or female, it doesn't matter. If you have a son or a daughter, if you have a nephew or a niece or a friend, please listen to the show today. It's going to be very informative today. So let me tell you a little bit more about this. And of course, I know that Rosemary can explain this to us. And Joan was a loving and brave little girl who was full of life and would stand up for others. She was spunky, caring, and a balanced child who loved daffodils, dogs, dancing, whistling, and high diving. Her special colors were green and orange, and she joked around and enjoyed the piano and her favorite song, Ode to Joy. She was a proud Girl Scout brownie. And again, as I said, while delivering cookies, the worst possible situation that could affect a mother, father, and family happened. And Joan, in fact, Rosemary is going to explain that to us. So her body was found, it disappeared from her home on Thursday while delivering the Girl Scout cookies. And the neighbor was the person who committed the crime and charged with murder. And an assistant Bergen County prosecutor, Alfred L. Gentile, and police chief Philip Varisco announced the action at a joint news conference and identified the suspect as McGowan, a bachelor living at 305 St. Nicholas Avenue with his mother and grandmother. And I'm going to let Rosemary explain the rest to you. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce the brave, wonderful, and it's an honor always to have you, Rosemary D'alessandro, on the show. Welcome.
Hello, everyone, and I am always so glad to be on the show because it gives me an opportunity to share a very important subject, which is child safety.
Yes.
See, everything started when through Joan, and then it became a movement about 28 years ago. And the movement was to remember Joan today, so then all children could be safe.
And you've done...
That's why it continues today, okay?
You've done so much, Rosemary, to make that happen. You've fought for years and years and years, having myasthenia gravis, which is a very debilitating disease. And through all of that, you and your sons have fought to keep Joan's memory alive, Joan's Joy Foundation, with all of these legislations. And you forgot about all of not that you forgot about it, but you put that aside, your tragedy, to help other parents with their children. And it's so important for people to listen today because we're going to also go over some safety tips that parents should know, that children should know, they should teach their children. Rosemary, tell us a little bit about Joan's foundation, Joan's Joy Foundation, and what your mission is.
Right. The Joan's Joy Foundation was started in '98, and at that time we couldn't surmise how big it could get. But I knew that we had an important purpose, and it was to advocate for children,
Yes.
especially those that were in harm's way or were neglected or were underprivileged, like with abuse.
Yes.
But the important part was also, to change things and to change things where we can get into prevention.
So important.
Now, also victims' rights. It was about victims' rights. So this is what we do with the foundation, our purpose. So what we do is, since that time, we have helped, I can't even count the amount of people, but we donate to organizations that are involved with domestic violence, because domestic violence is child abuse.
Yes.
Organizations dealing with sexual abuse, organizations dealing with human trafficking. And all these areas are so prevalent today, right? And maybe 20 years ago, I started the movement. That's when I really started doing the advocacy work that I do 28 years ago. But that was before the foundation was found. And in 93, what happened is that Joan's killer had a very good chance to be out on the street. And the prosecutor indicated to me that if we didn't fight to keep him in, there was a good chance he could come out.
A good chance.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Because you see, because he had gotten, when he got life, which I thought meant life at that time.
Yes.
It was only 14 years.
Now, why? Why, Rosemary, in those... so give us the year, please.
That was in 1973.
In 1973.
14 years meant life.
Okay. And that's in the state of New Jersey. I don't know if that's nationwide, but I don't think...
It was like that in a lot of places.
Yes. Well,
and so because of that, in 93... he had spent 20 years in prison, right? So he's 6 years more than 14. So that meant we didn't even know what it meant to fight like that.
Right.
And then a movement started, a grassroots movement. That's what we did. We did together with thousands of people.
Which is incredible.
And how it worked was with signatures to the parole board. So there were about 100,000 signatures to the parole board. Then we had a ribbon campaign, a green ribbon campaign, because as Lorry told you, Joan's color was green, her first color.
Her favorite.
And then green started to symbolize, remember Joan today, so tomorrow's children will be safe. Because in my mind, yes, we start with Joan. We start with Joan's mom. We start with Joan's family.
Yes.
But we don't stop there. What we do is go into the bigger picture, and that's for everyone. You see? So that's my purpose, and that's my philosophy.
And your mission, and your mission continues. And I do want to talk about all of the legislation that you have had implemented in place over the years. But can you tell our listeners, Rosemary, a little bit about Joan and what happened and the culmination of this fiend finally being caught?
And how I got the purpose?
Yes.
From that? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you see, in my faith, Holy Thursday is an important day.
Yes.
And that was the day that Joan never came back. She went to deliver cookies. She said, "Goodbye, Mommy, I'll be right back." It was the last 2 boxes of cookies to deliver. She and her sister had gone together previously, and these 2 little boxes of cookies were left, and her sister had gone to softball, and Joan was playing on the front grass, because at that time children were free to play on their front lawn.
Yes.
It was different. And children were going to people's houses to deliver cookies. But with us, I just told them 4 blocks they could go to. So they sold about 10, 12 boxes of cookies just to be part of the team for their group. But meanwhile, other kids were out all day, and that's the way it was, just selling cookies so they could win the prize.
Oh.
So anyway, goodbye, Mommy. I'll be right back. And in 5 minutes after that, Joan was being slaughtered. I mean, you think of everything, the worst that was being done to her. And he even took her by the ankles because he saw she was still moving, and he swung her like a rag doll on the it's like a vinyl floor. It's very hard. He swung her head there, and everything cracked. And that's what she was going through. And this was 5 minutes after she left.
Who would imagine that? The worst possible.
Imagine that.
No, I can't.
Imagine that.
I just can't. I can't comprehend, Rosemary, that I don't call him a human being, but anything can do something like. Well, he's beyond. He's beyond, and I want you to continue this, but I don't want to interrupt you, Rosemary. So let's just put a pin in that for a minute, because when we come back, we're going to go to a break in just a moment, and I don't want you to continue, but I do want you to continue and proceed with what then happened, so on and so forth. I also would very much like you to talk about the Mindhunter, John Douglas, Mindhunter, John, the author. And why he decided to write a book and dedicate quite a few chapters to Joan's, to you and Joan.
9 chapters.
How many?
9 chapters in there.
Wow.
And that book was dedicated to Joan and me.
And it was.
Even though it had 4 cases in it, yeah.
And it was called the Murder Across the Table?
No, it was called The Killer Across the Table.
The Killer Across the Table, okay. And that's John Douglas, Mindhunters, if anybody's ever seen that on Netflix. But, Rosemary, we're going to come back. I also, if you don't mind, I would also like to go through with you the different legislations, Joan's Law from April.
We just had one yesterday, the anniversary of Joan's Law in New York State yesterday.
That's the
17th year, because that got in 2004.
Okay. Yeah, I have that right here. Joan's Law, New York, September 15th. Yes, 2004. And then I want to talk about.
And we went out. We got nutritious food, and we had it at the grotto. We ate it at the grotto.
Oh, what a remembrance! And every
like a good thing.
Every day, you turn those lemons into lemonade, Rosemary. You are an angel in our universe. All, of course,
a lot of people
through Joan. Yes, they have.
We all have that power.
But without you, this would have never come to pass.
This is like this situation.
Yes.
But even in a lot of things, as hard as it seems, you either stay with the hard stuff, or what you do is change it and make it good.
Change it.
And then you can have more smiles.
Absolutely. Rosemary D'alessandro. Rosemary, please stay with us. We will be back after our break, and we're going to continue Joan's joy and the story of beautiful Joan Angela D'Alessandro and the legislation that Rosemary has so bravely put into place. Stay with us. We will be back. Bless the peace and I'm glad that you joined us. And we are visiting. It's heartbreaking for me. It's very difficult. This is a tough interview with a wonderful, heroic lady by the name of Rosemary D'alessandro. And Rosemary has been working for many, many years, passing legislations, scratching and clawing to get legislations passed for child safety and abused children and so on. So Rosemary also is having an event on Joan's Joy Child Safety Safety Fest, September 25th at 2 to 5 p.m. in Hillsdale at the train station in Hillsdale, New Jersey, up in North Jersey, Bergen County. So if anybody can make it, if you'd like to donate, please do not hesitate. And, of course, Rosemary will tell us a little bit more about that. And welcome back to the show, Rosemary. It's always an honor to have you on the show. And,
hi, everyone. Hi.
You're such a wonderful...
Lorry, I loved hearing that song.
That's the song, Rosemary.
Oh, my God.
That's the one I'm going to try to attempt to sing at your event. So,
oh my God,
it's beautiful. Bless the beasts and the children. Yes, they're beautiful animals, and of course, they're beautiful children. They are innocent, and they don't have a voice. We have to speak for them. And Rosemary, we have before we continue, we have Denise on the line, and I think Denise would love to say hello to you. Hi,
Denise.
Hi,
Denise. Hi.
Denise.
How are you?
Denise, are you there?
How are you?
Denise, we can't hear you. Go ahead. There you go.
Is that better?
You're all blurred, Denise. We can't hear you.
Hang on.
Go ahead.
Is that better?
Yes, it is better. Yes. Rosemary, Denise, okay. Yes.
Let me tell you, if it weren't for the power of radio, you wouldn't be talking to Rosemary, because I was the one who listened to George Norrie, who had the episode about her book, the book that he wrote, and it highlighted Joan in the one of the chapter, couple of chapters. And when I heard the word,
Denise, hold on. There's a lot of static going on behind you. I don't know where you are, but we can't hear you clearly. And Rosemary, can you hear Denise?
I'm having trouble. Denise.
Yeah.
Really
you want to call back? Denise, can you call back?
Yeah, I will.
Okay, give us a call back. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Denise. Rosemary, let's start by talking a little bit. So you continued, and let's continue with the story of Joan and what happened on that horrible day.
I really want to let you know. You're probably thinking, why is Rosemary still working on this? Well, you see, Joan was found on Easter Sunday.
Right.
Took them that whole weekend to find her. And with that, and knowing Joan, with her energy, she was, like, as little as she was, she understood about social justice. She was the kind of child that would stand up for the shy kid on the playground and say, come here and play.
Aww.
Come here and play with us. And this beautiful shy child bloomed because of what Joan did. But Joan thought nothing of it. She just said, this is what I do. Let's play together. Let's just play together. And then if someone was, like, fighting, and they were, fighting, but kids were playing, like bickering and all.
Children do, right?
She would just say, come on, let's go play. Let's go have some fun. Let's go do something. Mm-hmm. So Joan was about doing something, and she was about having fun, and she was about caring, and she was about just being a free spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So then with that, and then Holy Thursday and Easter, in my head, I said, there's going to be something very hopeful that's going to happen. And that's the way I saw things.
Yeah.
And then in 93, that's when I was talking to you about before, when the killer became eligible for parole, and the grassroots movement started, right? And then that's when the changes started. And that's when the hope was showing that was there in these messages in my mind, right?
Now, Rosemary, let's just, if we can just for one moment go back a little bit. But why was he eligible for parole? He murdered a child. Why was he eligible? I mean, was it because he admitted to the murder? What happened that transpired him becoming eligible for parole?
Well, he did have a lie detector test, and he did say, this was on Easter, and he did say that he had murdered Joan.
He did say, okay.
Yeah, but
he did
still, what he did was he just he got the greatest defense lawyer. And what they did, they just convicted him of a murder.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't convict him of a sexual assault. So then, thank God, there were these honorable people that came into the story and said, there are two things. But meanwhile, originally, it was just murder.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
So, yeah.
And DNA in those days wasn't prevalent like it is today. And, Rosemary, if you can tell our listeners, if you'd like to call in, you have a question, you can call us at 609-927-1100. Sure. And I know Denise is back, but Rosemary, can you please tell our listeners what he did as a profession?
As a profession?
What he did, what Joan's killer did as a career. Tell everyone.
He was a chemistry teacher to 16-year-olds. And some of these kids said that he was great, and others said that he was like a little icky. They got a bad feeling.
Yes, yes, very icky.
I'm giving you a very down-to-earth way of saying it.
Yes.
But the thing was, you were getting both ways.
Wow.
Meanwhile, the Girl Scouts, the cheerleaders, had been getting these calls. The mothers were getting calls, and the kids were being stalked. And they knew, the parents knew it was him.
Really?
But they nobody listened to them.
Isn't that amazing?
And the school just didn't do much, did nothing.
Well,
for these kids. And meanwhile, this was before Joan, was murdered.
Well, he maybe could have been stopped. And we look at today, it repeats itself with these beautiful little young gymnasts and this doctor, and how the FBI did not listen to them.
That's right.
And
that's why, that's the part that gets me so angry in a good way.
Yes.
That I fight what I'm doing.
Yes.
Is because we have to stand up, everyone.
Mm-hmm.
We have to stand up, even though it's uncomfortable to us, even though the person might not like us anymore, even though we get hurt, in a certain degree. We have to stand up. We have to change things. And every single person has a responsibility to stand up and do something when you see a child or a person in harm's way.
Absolutely.
And that's why we're still the way we are,
Absolutely.
So anything I do now, I'm going to be going on Fox Nation on October 4th.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be interviewed for a preview now, the preview show for the Fox. They're doing a whole documentary. And the whole thing is, I wish I could talk to each of you separately, but I can't. But just think, I'm talking to each of you separately, and I know you can't stand up. I know you can do it.
Yes.
Even though it takes courage. I know you can do it because you're a good person and you want to help others.
Missy Justice.
You could always get in touch with me. You could always go to jonesjoy.org and get in touch with me, and we could talk about it, and we could, help you.
Absolutely.
I love to hear you, and I'll do what I can to help, but we have to stand up.
You're amazing.
Together.
You're amazing.
Together.
You're
Together.
amazing, Rosemary. We have Denise on the line, but we have Ginny from Absecon on the line, and she may have a question for you, Rosemary.
Sure.
Good afternoon, Ginny. How are you today?
Hello.
Hello, Ginny. How are you today?
This is the most gut-wrenching story I've ever heard. I had to stop what I was doing and listen.
Yes. Chills.
I wonder if the death penalty can be returned to the state of New Jersey. There is a local politician who was a senator for a very short time who was the deciding vote to eliminate the death penalty in the state of New Jersey. And I wonder, I would imagine you know who it is, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is just gut-wrenching, and this was a school teacher of children.
Yeah. Rosemary, go ahead. This is Ginny Rosemary, and
hi, Ginny.
This is Joan's mom, Rosemary. Ginny.
Yes, I've been listening.
Hi, Ginny.
How long is he going to languish in prison? I mean, maybe he should be let out and someone can use him for target practice.
Ginny, excuse us. Good news. Rosemary, tell Ginny what happened.
Oh, Ginny, guess what?
What?
Oh, my gosh. I found out on June 7th, 2 days after the killer died in prison.
He died.
Oh, good.
Yes.
But he was there 48 years. So he lived 48 years. Meanwhile, Joan didn't live for 48 years, right?
No,
so
of course not.
It's very, very hard. But
it's
yet,
unfair.
Jenny,
it's unfair
we have to change
for
things.
these people to languish in prison. And
yes.
They get better medical care.
Mm-hmm.
They can go to school. This is what used to drive Geraldo Rivera crazy.
Me too.
You can get a college degree in prison.
Yes, they all become ministers and lawyers. They become attorneys, and they have a better life than we do. They have to pay for nothing, and unfortunately, Ginny and Rosemary, we know our tax dollars pay for this.
Well, of course, and they're treated better than veterans.
Oh, yes, absolutely. But what's wonderful is the other side is that, and if you want to read the book, Rosemary, can you please let Ginny know the name of the book?
It's called The Killer Across the Table. There are 9 chapters of Joan's story and some of my personal story in it. And it's 4 cases. So Joan's case is the first. There are 3 other cases. But Joan's case is really like the longest. It has the longest
most amount of chapters
in the book.
And Joan,
guess what?
Right.
John Douglas, this famous profiler, a famous author, they surprised us. They surprised me. They dedicated the book to Joan and me.
It's wonderful.
So you see, Jeannie, so the people, that's what we need, that kind of support, because that kind of support is important to show that they really believe in the concept of Joan's story, like 100, 200, 300.
Now, how did he die in prison? How did that happen?
Well, it was natural causes, but I can't find out yet. So far, I don't know. know.
Okay.
No.
And
listen, Mrs. D'Alessandro, thank you so much.
God
bless you.
You could call me Rosemary, Jeannie. Rosemary.
Okay.
Ginny.
I'm Rosemary.
God bless you.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. She's an angel. She's an angel.
Go onto JonesJoy.org, Jeannie, if it doesn't, if it's not too hard for you. But you'll see good things. You'll see about the laws.
Mm-hmm.
We've gotten 5 laws
talk about
through.
that. Yes.
And now we're going on the 6th law. And what it does, it says these people that do what Joan's killer did die in prison.
They should. Absolutely.
Right.
I'd like to know, do you have any tips or pointers that people can use and kind of keep in the back burner of their mind for seeing this? Do they have behavior? Do they
how to recognize.
Pardon?
Well, I have to tell you, I wasn't going to go into it because we don't have too much time, but I was able to, but I knew about this during we were fighting to, because we had to fight to keep them in many times. So someone came over when we had a yard sale, huge yard sale, one of our fundraisers that helps the abused kids and what we do. And they came over. They brought over 250 letters that he wrote to a pen pal. And the pen pal wrote to him. Now, I wasn't able to get those until after he died, you see, or talk about it. I could not talk about it because then he could try to get out of prison and say, try to sue, whatever.
Yeah.
Couldn't say that we had these letters, but we gave these letters to the parole board. So the parole board had more new information to keep him in. And that was very important. So this way we could even give him a longer term. Instead of giving him 10 years, give him 20, 30 years. But guess
were the
what?
letters explicit
These letters,
sexual in nature?
These letters show a lot about the mind of a killer.
Rosemary, yes, and Ginny's asking: did the letters show any sexual implications? Did he do any? Was he writing anything about that?
He did not talk about Joan at all.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But he talked about a lot of anger.
Well, he was.
Towards me.
Oh.
You?
Oh, yeah.
I know. Ginny.
I was...
Ginny.
So he really hated me.
Well, good.
How can you pick out a person like this? Are there pointers or tips you can give? I mean, if someone is, if you use your gut instinct, always go with your gut, I say.
Mm-hmm.
And is there anything in common about these types of animals?
Okay, I would say, first of all, it could be anyone.
Right.
All right?
Mm-hmm.
As we know, it could be a neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
It could also be someone in your family, Jeannie.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Most of the time, it is people that we know. So what is there in that person? You're talking about your gut feeling. Very, very important. But what do we do as people? We just, oh well.
Exactly.
No, I'll let it go.
Mm-hmm.
But that gut feeling you have to keep there, and just keep there in the back of your mind, and make sure you don't forget it, and be a little wary.
And
now another
showing
thing,
that you're wary.
Another thing, Rosemary. Did he get to keep his pension? Was this big teacher's pension mounting up while he was in prison?
Okay, he didn't get that, but what he did was, as a prisoner, he got money for working and money for just living there.
can you imagine? And he also, when I read, when John Douglas interviewed him, and Ginny, you and Rosemary, I'm sure, of course, you know this. John Douglas had said that he spoke to his lawyer, he spoke to John Douglas when John went in to interview him while he was still in prison, and he said, "Oh, I'm going to be getting out of here soon." He says, "Well, what are you going to do? Where are you going to?" "Oh," he says, "I'm going to New York." He goes, "I have a lot of money." And Rosemary was able to sue, right, Rosemary? But you didn't get anything. You didn't get a penny. But
we didn't get a penny because
his mother and grandmother left him money.
They hid all the money, so they says, but we hid it from the D'Alessandro family. And then I got 3 investigators, spent $10,000 of my own money, and we couldn't find it. And then the most we found out was that it was in Wisconsin with some relatives there,
mm-hmm.
and they worked it that, we couldn't even get it. Yeah.
So, we're coming. Ginny, if you want to tune in tomorrow evening, Rosemary will be back tomorrow from 6 to 10 on my show.
Okay, thank you so much, Rosemary, and God bless you.
Yes.
Okay, God bless you.
Good.
And
good.
If there's any knowledge you can impart to us, please do so.
Well, tomorrow evening, I'm going to have Rosemary come up with some things, and we're going to talk about some things that children need to be told by their parents for safety, and what Rosemary can tell us about what they need to watch out for. So tune in. If you want to tune in tomorrow evening, Ginny, at 6 o'clock, Rosemary will be back.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ginny.
Thank you. Thank you, Ginny. Thank you. And Rosemary, I know we don't have a lot of time left, but you'll be back tomorrow evening, and hopefully if anybody's listening today and we haven't answered a question, call in tomorrow 6 to 7 p.m. on my show, 609-927-1100. This is I get chills all the time. Rosemary, if you can quickly, let me run this by you. Jones Law, New Jersey, April 3rd, 1997.
Yes. Okay, April 3rd. That's the first one.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And that's in New Jersey.
That's in New Jersey.
That says no parole ever for people that sexually assault and murder a child under 14.
Yes.
Under 14, because in New Jersey, that's the age for a child.
Right. Now,
but my goal was to always get it for all minors.
Okay.
So in 2017, the law says no parole ever.
Again.
For children, minors under 18.
Okay.
And believe everybody, it took 7 years to get that law through. That's New Jersey. So now all minors, so children and human trafficking and all, those people will die in prison. There's something, at least some justice
yes.
To be done. But also, there was a law, other laws,
yes.
one on the federal level.
Yes, the federal.
The whole country, federal level.
So
and
that
then
was,
Justice
yes.
of Victims Law, which I could talk about tomorrow night.
Yes, I'd like to talk about that.
That is very important, where you can sue the criminal, even though if it's 50 years ago.
Wow.
Okay, so, and then that means if you know of someone that has been, in a case like this, you could tell the family about this, and they can get the money from the criminal if the criminal has money.
And
so
yeah,
that's important.
That's a toughie. And then you have Joan's Law, as you said, New York, that September.
And we have Joan's Law,
yes,
New York,
yesterday.
and now we're working on the expansion of getting Joan's Law for all the kids under 18. So hopefully next year we'll get that done.
Okay, that's wonderful. Rosemary, it's always a pleasure, and please, we will be with you tomorrow evening, and I'm going to email you some of these things tonight, and we'll discuss them, because I'm sure many of our listeners are interested about what they need to tell their children and their nieces and nephews, what to be aware of, and us as parents.
I think parents have to know first.
You're absolutely right. And we will continue tomorrow evening with you, the wonderful Rosemary D'alessandro. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Denise, for coming on, too.
Yeah, Denise is still on, but we couldn't hear her get her through. Thank you, Rosemary. God bless you. And say hello to the boys and keep up that incredible work. We love you.
Thank you, Lori.
We love you, Rosemary.
Thank you for being such a channel.
Listen, I'm an advocate for you, and I will continue to be for the rest of our lives. Thank you, Rosemary. And we'll speak tomorrow. Bye-bye. Have a great afternoon. Thank you. We'll be back after our very important messages with another hour of the David Spatz Show. Thank you. Hang in. Thank you, Ginny, for all your input. Appreciate it.
It's 1 o'clock. I'm Michelle Franzen. The FDA will review COVID booster data tomorrow and could determine when vaccinated Americans can get their booster dose.